Wandering the library of bubbles, a curious thing begins to happen. The initial dazzle of difference, the unique gods, the varied rituals, the conflicting commandments start to soften. A deeper resonance emerges. Beneath the surface textures of each tradition, beneath the specific names and stories, the same foundational shapes begin to appear. It's like listening to music from every culture and slowly hearing that, while the instruments and scales differ, they are all built upon the same mathematical relationships of harmony and rhythm. The library is not just a collection of separate books, it is a collection of variations on a set of timelines, universal themes. This episode is about learning to see the patterns beneath. Beyond the surface of all human bubbles lie deep, recurring structures. These are the archetypes, the mythic cycles, the psychological and narrative underpinnings common to the entire human experience. They are the universal code running beneath the software of every specific culture, religion, and personal psyche. Recognizing them is like putting on a pair of lenses that reveal the architectural blueprints of reality itself. There is the pattern of the hero's journey. Identified by mythologist Joseph Campbell, it appears in the stories of Moses, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, in Luke Skywalker, and Neo of the Matrix. A call to adventure, a refusal, a meeting with a mentor crossing the threshold into the unknown, facing trials and a supreme ordeal, seizing the sword of elixir and returning transformed to bestow a boon upon the ordinary world. This isn't just a plot template for movies. It is the fundamental pattern of any conscious evolution, any awakening from a smaller bubble into a larger one. Seeing this pattern allows us to recognize where we are in our own spiral. Are we refusing the call? Are we in the belly of the whale? Or are we on the road back? There is an eternal dance of order and chaos. Every culture has its myth of a primordial chaos. The Greek chaos, the Hebrew tohu wabohu, the Norse ginu gab gab gab, from which order is brought forth by a creative force. This duality plays out in our lives as tension between the need for security, structure, and predictability, order, and the need for growth, novelty, and freedom, chaos. Too much order is stagnation, a suffocating bubble. Too much chaos is disintegration, a shattered bubble. Health is found in the dynamic balance at the edge, where one informs the other. Then, there are the archetypes, as mapped by Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung: the mother, nurture, creation, the unconscious; the father, structure, authority, the conscious world; the trickster, disruption, change, the shadow. Then there's the sage, wisdom, guidance; the anima, animus, the inner feminine and masculine; the shadow, repressed, unacceptable aspects of the self. These are not just characters and stories. They are psychic forces, living patterns within the collective human psyche, what Jung called the collective unconscious. They manifest to our dreams, in our attractions and aversions, in the roles we play and the people we meet. To recognize the trickster at work in a sudden, frustrating change of plans is to disarm its power to merely upset us, and instead to ask what old structure it is wisely disrupting. Seeing these patterns represents a fundamental shift in magic. It moves us from being collectors of beliefs, tourists in the library, to becoming decipherers of the code. We stop asking which story is true and start asking, what is this story revealing about the structure of human experience? The specific god names become instances of the father or mother archetype. The savior narratives become expressions of the hero's journey. The apocalyptic prophecies become manifestations of the chaos, order, cycle resetting. When you see the pattern, a profound calm emerges. You can, in a sense, predict the next page in the story. In personal life, dark night of the soul is recognizable as a necessary stage in this ordeal, not a meaningless failure in history. The rise of a rigid, ordering empire can be seen as a predictable reaction to a period of chaotic disintegration and its eventual decay as the inevitable return of the repressed chaos. It doesn't make the events less impactful, but it removes the sense of bewildering randomness. We are watching a play whose acts we have begun to recognize, even if the specific actors and costumes change with each performance. The enlightened masters were master pattern recognizers, and they embedded these universal codes into their teachings, knowing they would speak directly to the deep structures of the psyche. Carl Jung himself saw religion and mythology as the dreams of mankind, the projected content of the collective unconscious. For him, the process of individuation became a whole integrated self, was the heroic journey of making the unconscious conscious, of confronting and integrating one's shadow and the anima animus, ultimately to connect with the central archetype of the self, which is the image of wholeness and the God within. His entire psychology is a manual for decoding the personal manifestation of universal patterns. The tarot, often dismissed as mere fortune-telling, is in essence a pictorial encyclopedia of archetypal patterns. The 22 cards of the major arcana, map of the fool's journey, a direct parallel to the hero's journey. Through encounters with archetypal forces, the magician, conscience creation, the high priestess, the unconscious, the emperor, order, the wheel of fortune, cyclic change, death, transformation, the tower, sudden upheaval, the star, hope, and so on. It is a system for reflecting on what universal pattern is currently active in one's life. In Hinduism, the concept of the avatar embodies this principle. Vishnu, the preserver, descends avatara into the world in various forms as a fish, a boar, a man-lion, Rama, Krishna, Buddha. Whenever the cosmic balance between order and chaos is threatened, each avatar represents a specific archetypical force needed to restore the pattern of dharma, cosmic order and law. The stories are specific, but the pattern of divine intervention to correct a tilted balance is universal. The alchemists, in their cryptic text and illustrations, were not merely trying to make gold. They were mapping the archetypical process of psychological and spiritual transformation. The Nigredo, blackening, is the confrontation with the shadow. The Albedo, whitening, is the purification and illumination by the feminine, lunar principle, the anima. The Rubedo, reddening, is the integration and manifestation of the conscience, solar masculine principle. Their fantastical imagery of dragons, kings, queens, and chemical weddings is a coded language of archetypal pattern. To learn this language is to gain a new kind of sight. A political movement can be seen as an eruption of the shadow of a nation, or a collective acting out of a father-mother complex. A personal obsession can be recognized as possession by a specific archetype. A recurring dream figure is no longer just a stranger, but a manifestation of an aspect of the self seeking integration. This doesn't reduce the richness of life to a sterile formula. It does the opposite. It reveals the profound, mythic dimension of everyday existence. The argument with a partner is not just a petty dispute. It's a clash of inner archetypical energies. The choice to leave a secure job for an uncertain passion is a classic crossing the threshold. The feeling of being lost and purposeless is the belly of the whale stage. Seeing the patterns beneath is the ultimate act of joining the dots. It connects our tiny personal spiral to the grand turning spiral of all human becoming. We realize we are not just living a random life. We are living a myth. We are each an instance of the hero navigating the universal landscape of trials and gifts, wrestling with the same eternal forces that every human who has ever drawn breath has wrestled with. The code is being run in us, and we are now becoming conscious to the program. And in that consciousness lies the true magic, the power to cooperate with the pattern, to understand its purpose, and to consciously play our part in the never-ending, always fascinating story.